Welcome back to J310, Critical Issues in Journalism. As you can tell, we're in a different setting today. That's because during the regular semester when these lectures were recorded, there was a technical problem with one day, so I am reshooting one of these lectures. Last class period, we left off with an assertion about politics. My contention that politics is about more than elections, that politics is about the distribution of power, and that occurs within an electoral system, but importantly also goes on outside of that. Today what I want to do is also talk about morality in a similar fashion. I want to suggest that morality is more than just mores, more than just following the customs. To be a moral person is more than just following the customs of a particular society. That these fundamental moral questions are about what it means to be a person in the world. That just as everything has a political dimension, everything has a moral dimension. When we think about that moral dimension, we ask questions about what is human nature, and then what does it mean, given that nature, to live in right relation to oneself, to other people, and in the larger living world. I also want to suggest not only that all of our lives have a moral dimension on a daily basis, just as they have a political dimension on a daily basis, but also that this moral and political can never be separated. That in fact, your conception of what it means to be a person, your conception of human nature, your ideas about how you should live in right relation to yourself, to others, and to the larger living world will have a dramatic effect on your politics, that the political and the moral can never be disentangled. Now, why spend time talking about this? Because we live in a society where one often hears the quip, don't talk about religion or politics. You'll hear people use that phrase, that to avoid trouble, don't talk about religion or politics. And what I'm suggesting is there isn't much in the world to talk about except religion or politics. Religion here meaning more than just a particular theological system, but that question about what it means to be human. That in fact, those are the animating questions of any society. Talking about the political and the moral is crucial. It's especially crucial in contemporary United States, where so much of the world is depoliticized, where people don't engage in discussions of politics and often don't engage in these very foundational moral questions. So in this introductory segment of the course, where I'm trying to sketch what I believe are the important questions where we all should be paying attention, it seems to me that taking seriously the political in this expansive sense and the moral in an equally expansive sense are very, very important. One exercise I'd like you all to do in connection to this focus on the political and the moral is to take a moment and ask yourself a very simple question. What are the values required to build a decent human society? Maybe come up with a list of 3. It can be just a word or a phrase, but what does it take to ensure that any human community can go forward in a decent fashion? What are the values that we need to hold dear if we are going to build societies that fulfill our needs personally, that make it possible to live together and make it possible to live in that larger living world? In a decent society, what are the 3 values that would be most important? Now, I want you to think about that, jot that down, and throughout the semester, refer back to that list as we talk about issues in government and democracy, as we talk about issues in news and media. Think about those values and always return to them as you're trying to fashion your own understanding of the contemporary political and media world. So that's very much my objective in this class, to raise these kinds of questions. People often ask me, what is this course about? What is J310, Critical Issues in Journalism, really about? What's your goal? And my goal is for students to examine their own beliefs, to evaluate those beliefs, to find out which ones stand up to scrutiny. Here, I think we can go to Socrates, the great ancient Greek philosopher, who said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." And so this process of examining our own lives, taking the values, the norms, the political and moral ideas that we are raised with, and subjecting them to scrutiny is very important. And my goal as the instructor in this class is to make that process possible for everyone. One way to say this is to look at a favorite poem of mine called Dropping Keys by Hafiz, the great Sufi poet, Persian Sufi poet from the 14th century. And the poem Dropping Keys says, "The small person builds cages for everyone she sees. Instead, the sage, who needs to duck her head when the moon is low, can be found dropping keys all night long for the beautiful, rowdy prisoners." That idea of trying to set our minds free, that we all need to be looking for those keys that can open up the cages that we might find ourselves in. Now, when you do that, when one opens those cages, of course, part of what one is opening up to is the struggle and the pain. Last class period, we took a look at a song by Michael Franti called "Hey World," in which Franti sings with great vigor and energy about the need to never accept what society hands you, to never go on remote control, to break out of that. Well, Franti recorded another version of the song called "Hey World, Don't Give Up," where he perhaps suggests that a well-rounded life, a well-rounded intellectual life, includes not only that action and that energy directed outwardly, but also periods of contemplation, maybe even silence. So take a listen to Michael Franti, "Hey World, Don't Give Up." I think there are a number of aspects of that song, Franti's "Hey World, Don't Give Up," that are very important. Simply, first of all, just recognizing the struggle and pain of the world and opening up to it. But there's one lyric in particular where he says, "Don't give up on me, I won't give up on you, and just believe in me like I believe in you." And in this first part of the course, when we start to discuss democracy, we might want to think about that. Don't give up on me, I won't give up on you. Believe in me, just like I believe in you, is in some ways an expression of a democratic spirit. The belief in each other, the belief that you have the capacity to be part of a process of self-governance just as I do, and it takes that mutual faith if we are going to make it. One way to think about the core of democracy. Democracy is about institutions, it's about ways of electing representatives in large societies. Democracy is a lot of things, but it's also about a basic trust in each other, which is often difficult to maintain. So in this first segment of the class, I've been suggesting that before we delve into a discussion of democracy and government, news and journalism, that we think a bit about ourselves and our place in the world, how we come to understand the world and what we want from that world. And I'd like to wrap up this segment with another poem by the American poet and novelist Wendell Berry. Wendell Berry is well known as spokesperson for the sustainable agriculture movement, a movement that tries to think about agriculture when the oil wells run dry, a post-fossil fuel agriculture. Barry speaks often about not only industrial agriculture, but what we could call industrial society, contemplates what it means to live in a society full of so many distractions, where there are so many electronic devices and entertainment media that are there to pull us away. And so, with this focus on the need to occasionally step back and contemplate, I want to conclude with a Wendell Berry poem called How to Be a Poet, which he subtitles To Remind Myself. Berry, an accomplished poet now in his 70s, reminding himself of what it takes to actually be a poet. And this is Wendell Berry's poem. Make a place to sit down. Sit down. Be quiet. You must depend on affection, reading, knowledge, skill, more of each than you have. Inspiration, work, growing older, patience. For patience joins time to eternity. Any readers who like your poems, doubt their judgment. Breathe with unconditioned breath the unconditioned air. Shun electric wire. Communicate slowly. Live a three-dimensional life. Stay away from screens. Stay away from anything that obscures the place it is in. There are no unsacred places. There are only sacred places and desecrated places. Accept what comes from silence. Make the best you can of it. Of the little words that come out of the silence, like prayers prayed back to one who prays, make a poem that does not disturb the silence from which it came. Something to consider. We'll come back and in the next segment talk about how that might be applied to the world we live in and how we can go forward from there to talk about democracy.